All right, on prenatal care and development, they talk a little bit about programs and exercise. The programs would include like medical care, education, social and nutritional services. Again, you know, it's a very complex thing that's going on with the prenatal development. So you would like to have as much access to medical care and these different like social programs as possible. Exercise is recommended. So if you're in better shape, you're going to feel better. And again, like we talked a little bit about in the last video, the idea of stress, your stress would come down if you're exercising. There's all kinds of positive benefits for exercise, and it is going to transfer to the prenatal development. We talked a lot about in the last chapter the idea of the terogens and all that and the problems that could happen. All that being said, the normal prenatal development goes just fine. Follow the doctor's advice. Most of the time, development occurs along a positive path, and you're not going to have any issues. So I don't want you to be scared from like the last video. Most prenatal development goes along the normal path. On the normal path, so we have the birth process. We have the stages of birth. In the first stage, it's the longest. It's 6 to 12 hours for the first birth. Uterine contractions cause the woman's cervix to stretch and dilate to the opening of about 4 inches so that the baby can move from the uterus into the birth canal. In the second stage, the baby's head moves through the cervix and the birth canal, and the baby emerges completely. This stage lasts about 45 minutes to an hour. Quite long when you're in that process. That feels quite long. The afterbirth is in the third stage, and this lasts only a few minutes. The placenta, the umbilical cord, and the other membranes are detached and expelled. On the childbirth settings and attendance, in the United States, the vast majority of births are in a hospital. It has become the norm for fathers or birth coaches to be with the mother throughout the labor and delivery. Only about 8% of women in the U.S. are attended by a midwife. A doula is a caregiver who provides continuous physical, emotional, and educational support before, during, and after the birth. So a doula might live with you during the entire prenatal development, and maybe even after for a short time. Most of these work as an independent provider, and they are hired by the expectant parents. On the methods of childbirth, we got 3 basic kinds. Drugs that are used for labor. Analgesia is used to relieve pain. Anesthesia blocks sensation to areas of the body or even to block consciousness. And then oxytocin may be administered as well. Related to these methods, you could all have natural childbirth, where you would not use those medications we just described. And the attempts to reduce pain would be by decreasing fear through education and relaxation. So it's a prepared childbirth. You may have heard of this before. It's called Lamaze. The Lamaze method includes a special breathing technique and a more like detailed courses on the anatomy and physiology and what you're going to go through to try to mentally prepare you for what's going to happen to put you in a calm state before it occurs. Another method, and I've talked about it a couple different times now, is cesarean delivery, a C-section. You're going to remove the baby from the mother's uterus through an abdominal incision, and it has increased quite a bit in the last few decades. It's especially likely if the baby is in breech position. I did talk about this before. Breech position meaning that the buttocks is going to come out first. You would prefer not for that to happen because it can cause respiratory issues. All that being said, some people are not so sure that there's the idea that C-sections should be going up at such a dramatic rate. Some people are a little bit opposed to this, and they think that there's benefits to C-sections. Some people think there's more risk to C-sections. So with a lot of this stuff, it's something that you need to decide by you consulting with your doctor and the literature. So if you're like, I don't know about C-sections, you should talk it over with your doctor and get the best advice you can. Okay, that's it. Now the baby is born, and in the next section, we'll get into assessing the newborn.